and welcome to another booktube video from me, Lauren, from Lauren and the Books. Today I'm going to be doing something with a special guest, oh yeah, and I thought now would be a great time to talk about reading habits. So people always ask me, how do you read so much, how do you find time to read, etc, etc, and I guess I've always just read that much, and I thought it would be a really great time to find out tips if you want to read more, if you're quite a seasoned reader, as I consider myself, and tips if you want to read more if you're a beginner's reader, as I consider my boyfriend David, who will be joining us here. He's got a cup of tea already, and it's all very exciting. So let us get going. David, come join us. Come on, come on. Oh. This is my boyfriend David.
Hello.
Welcome. Are you excited?
Yeah.
Are you nervous?
Yeah.
Why are you nervous?
It's my first one.
Look at the camera and say hello.
Yeah.
Say hello, my name's David.
Hello, my name's David.
Okay, so today we're going to be talking about reading habits. So as I said earlier, people always say to me, how do you read so much? How do you get anything else done? So we live in our own flat, don't we, David?
We do.
It's true, we do. And I would say I run a household. I don't know if I run a household. I make dinner every night, things like that. You do the cleaning. And I still manage to find time to read. So you living with me, you're the expert on seeing how I read so much. So how would you say that I read so much?
So, whenever Lauren gets a spare moment, she will read. When she wakes up in the morning, she's reading. When she gets ready for work, she's reading. When she goes to the toilet, she'll probably read. If I'm sitting here playing video games, she'll be reading. If she's cooking and she's waiting for the things to cook, then she's reading. So pretty much.
I read all the time is the answer to the question. So, but when I say I read all the time, I actually do read all the time. I always have a book with me, always, and I actually always have a spare book with me. So if I'm ever going to work, because I read on my lunch break every day, so I'm supposed to have a half hour, but I normally take about 10-15 minutes. So if I ever get a spare moment, so when I'm at work, I always take a spare book in case I finish the book that I'm reading, God forbid, and I don't have anything to read, because then I can get started straight away. So that is a tip I'd always give, that always have, if you're coming to the end of a book, or if you're going on a long journey or a train journey or something, always have a spare book there so you can just get straight into the next one. Another tip I have is tailor the books you are taking with you or reading to your environment. So for instance, recently I read the Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone illustrated edition. Should have brought that downstairs with me, and that is massive. So that was my bedtime book, so I would read that at bed, because you can't take it around with you, and if you do, it'll be awkward. I couldn't take it to work, doesn't fit in a handbag. So if I always tend to have like two books on the go, not always, but if I'm reading a big book, I like to have two books on the go at once, so that I can read a paper book when I'm about, fits in my handbag perfectly, easy to carry. I don't mind so much if paperbacks get a bit bashed about, but things like hardback books I tend to keep at home and have them as my home time reading. Also saying that, I'm reading this at the moment, Spectacles by Sue Perkin, and I'm just taking it everywhere, and that's quite a big hardback. But yeah, so tailor the books that you're drinking, it's because you're drinking your tea. Tailor the books that you're reading to the environment that you're in, and I think that will help you along your way. Another thing I do, I keep a log of my reading. So I use Goodreads, which we can talk about a bit later on, because David started using Goodreads, and I also use my book journal, and I just think this adds like an extra incentive to log what I'm reading, and it's just nice to look back and see what I've read for that year as well. So that helps me as well, and also it means I don't reread things too often, because although I do like a reread, you shouldn't really be rereading things in a year, should you?
No, say reread again.
Reread. Also, I think you have to sort of, if you want to read as much as I do, you have to make time for it. So a lot of people say, well, how do you get time for it? How do you get time for it? Well, I don't really watch any telly, do I?
No.
We don't really watch any telly together.
No.
We watched, what do we watch? Bake Off, Strictly, Sherlock, and that's really it, isn't it?
Yeah.
So there's only sort of 3 times a year that we watch telly. So I don't sit in front of the telly of an evening flicking through going, there's nothing on, it's awful, there's nothing on. Because I use that time to sit and read, or be in bed and read. Also, it's nice, like when I get home from work, before David gets in, I just take 20 minutes just to myself, just to read, just to sort of like relax myself from the day. So my like job's quite busy, and when my drive home is always quite traffic filled. So when I get home, I'm always a bit like, So I just take 20 minutes and I just sit and read, and they're not disturbed 20 minutes. I'm not like on my phone at the same time or anything like that. You just need to sit down and detach yourself from everything, which I think is really difficult these days because everyone is so attached to their phone. You need to make use of public transport journeys. Any journeys you're on, you can use that for reading, and also audiobooks. So as I said, I drive to work. I have it's 40 minutes with traffic there and 40 minutes with traffic on the way back, probably a little bit more on the way back. And I listen to audiobooks. So even though it's not that big a time, and most of the time I listen to the radio in the morning as well, I'm getting about an hour of an audiobook a day. So that is another book that's sort of like ticking by, and I would probably get through an audiobook a month. So they're a good way to do it. But you can do that. You don't have to listen to them on your commute. You can listen to them anytime, really, when you're doing anything. I mean, would you be interested in audiobooks?
No,
you're not interested?
No.
Why?
Well, it just make me fall asleep. I think it's the voice. I think maybe if I was listening to a Harry Potter one...
Stephen Fry does the Harry Potter ones.
With Stephen Fry, it might be different, but... What was it, the one we listened to? The Northern Lights
Northern Lights, yeah, you didn't like it, did you?
Voice,
I love that, though.
Oh, it just done my head in.
So we went to my cousin's wedding in Bath, and we drove down there, and we listened to that. It was like 9 CDs or something. Yeah. And David didn't like it at all. He didn't like it. But I thought it was really good. That was a particularly good one. But that's just another way that you can get books into you. Also, find a way that you enjoy reading the most. If you like reading on your Kindle, then read on your Kindle. If you like getting paperbacks out, then read paperbacks. Like, you've got to tailor it to yourself and your reading experience. So last year I read 101 books, and I want to read 110 this year. Last year you read
4.5.
4.5, and how many do you want to read this year?
10.
So David is coming to this as a sort of not a beginner's reader, because you can read, but like as wanting to make it more of a hobby, I guess.
Well,
more content.
Yes. Yeah.
So I thought that once you'd listened to me go on about how much I read and all of that, I'm just checking if I've read everything. Yeah. I thought it'd be a great time to speak to David about how he gets on with his reading and stuff. Your task of reading 10 books a year, how are you going to ensure that you do that? Because you wanted to do that last year and you read 4.5. So where do you think you failed last year, and how do you think you're going to try this year?
With last year, because from work, I don't really like to read. My favourite time for reading is probably maybe like in the mornings at weekends. So like we've done a little bit of reading this morning. I can't read when I'm tired, because when I'm tired I just don't concentrate on the book, so I'll read a page, then I'll flip to the next one, and I'll be like, oh, I don't know what I've just read. So then I have to go back and reread it, so I don't bother then. But
So you only read 4.5 books last year, so you actually gave up on a book, which I think is just disgusting.
Well, no, I didn't give up on a book.
Go to prison for that.
I didn't give up on a book.
Well, you did. You didn't finish it.
No, I haven't finished it yet.
Well, you are going to finish it.
I am going to finish it.
When? Now?
Yeah.
So 10 books in a year, that's less than a book a month.
Yeah.
So are you sort of aiming for a book a month in the hope that if you fall down in other times, then you've got like some books under your belt, or are you just going for the 10 books this year?
I will just, the minimum will be 10 books, and I'm not necessarily going for one a month.
So what books? So have you picked the books that you want to read this year, or have you got some in mind, and then you're just going to see what happens? Like, how have you picked? Like, how are you going to deal with the 10 books? The thought of just reading 10 books a year fills me with panic. I just want them to be the bestest books ever. So what books have you got in mind to read as a beginner's reader, and why have you picked those? So
they're just going to be like books that I know I'm going to enjoy.
Yeah.
They're not going to be too demanding, and I don't want any that are too big.
No.
Because like War and Peace, like things like that. So I think the first bit, I'm hoping that as the more I read, the more the bigger books that I'm going to feel confident in reading. So like average between like 200 and 300 pages would be fine, because then I can read a couple of chapters a weekend, and then after a month I would have got one. So hopefully by the end of the year I might have done 12.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if I do
you set it at 10, so that if 1 month you don't get to read something, or they might if you go on holiday or something like that, you might find that you read a bit more. So you've got 4 books here. Do you want to show us the 4 books that you've got? These are on your definite to read list.
The one I'm currently reading at the minute is the Penguin Lessons. And
I really want to read this.
It's a really good book. So it's about a chap who's in Argentina, and he was on holiday, and on his last night on holiday, there was an oil leak. So this is based in the 70s.
And it's real life.
And
so it's non-fiction.
Yes, so it's a non-fiction, and he walks on the beach, and there was an oil spill, and there was like thousands of dead penguins there, all covered in oil. But there was one that was alive, and he rescued it, and then he managed to get it through borders, and he managed to get it home because he's working in Buenos Aires as a teacher in a college, and so it's just about him and the students and how the penguin's gone, and I'm just over halfway through.
And are you enjoying it?
And it's really good. It's
I mean,
good
to
fun.
be fair, like, it's the 16th of January today, and this is how much you've read since, like, the 1st of January, so you're doing very, very well. Like, that's going to be finished by the end of the month, if you carry on the way you are. But you'll read it because you love penguins.
Yes, I do love
penguins. Something you were saying to me earlier was that if you want to read more, then read things you're interested in. Don't try and read something just because it's popular.
Yeah.
Like, you like penguins, read a book on penguins, which sort of links into your next book that you're planning on reading as well.
So, anyone who knows me, that my favourite film in the world is Back to the Future. And then when Lauren went to London, when you met up with a couple of your
booktubers
chums, she brought me this book back, which is We Don't Need Roads, the making of the Back to the Future trilogy. And so I'm very interested to read this. Obviously, I'm just assuming it's about all the back stuff and how obviously Michael J. Fox was originally picked as the first Marty McFly and things like that, really. So I'm very excited to read this, and then about Zemeckis, the director, and Bob Gale, who wrote it. So I'm very excited to be reading this one as well.
It's got quite a cool cover as well. If you like the films, that's a really cool cover.
And then the next one is another favourite film of mine, which is Jurassic Park. Which
I didn't know this was a novel before it was a film. I saw that in Tesco,
novel.
And I bought it. It was in your stocking, wasn't it?
Yes, it was in my stocking.
Father Christmas bought it in the stocking.
So obviously, I know the story. It'll be interesting to see. So this is obviously quite a big chunk of a book for me to read, but
it's quite a big font though, isn't it? And it's like
it's not too bad, yeah. And obviously, you know the story, so I'm interested to see what's different from this.
Yeah, I'd like to read that as well, actually.
Yeah. So I'm assuming the character, because you've got Dr. Malcolm in there, so it's all the same characters and things. So yeah, that'll be an interesting one as well.
And the last one, which I think is a good tip as well for people who want to read more. I bought this for you for Christmas. I'm so excited about this. I can't wait to read this.
So this is the book I'm probably going to read when I finish my Penguin book. And it's called The Gigantic Beard That Was Evil, and this is a graphic novel.
A graphic
novel. And so as you can see, I have a beard. So this is the perfect book for me. And Lauren, Lauren started obviously reading graphic novels last year.
Yeah, I love them.
And you fell in love with them. So
this is beautiful. I've written a little message in there.
Yes, a little message in there.
But the show then.
Show and
so
tell.
This is, I mean, we don't want to spoil any.
No,
look at this one though.
I don't want to look.
No, it doesn't matter. I don't think you would give anything away. But this one in particular, I mean, this I've seen a lot of people talk about this. They read this last year, but this is look at this one. That's giving loads of the story away, isn't it?
That's a spoiler alert.
But they have got that one. So they have got like this one has got some font in it as well. But I think that's like if you want to sort of read a bit more, then graphic novels are your way to go about it. I'm actually thinking of doing a graphic novel video because I only started reading graphic novels last year, so I sort of feel like I've got a bit of a beginner's insight into it, like what I read and things. So yeah, so they're the books that David's going to read. So just in terms of tips, as you said, you would like you read things that you're interested in because there's no point in slogging through something that you don't care about because it's going to turn you off of reading. Yeah. So pick books of films that you've seen and liked, and you wouldn't mind reading that. Pick books about things you like you like penguins.
Yeah.
Book about penguins. You like Back to the Future. Book about Back to the Future. And also, I've been using Goodreads for a while now, but you've just started using Goodreads. Yeah. You've downloaded the app to your iPad, and how do you think that's going to help you with
I think it's good.
reading?
I think it's a good thing to look at. So, obviously, because I've only got a couple of books on there that I know I want to read, the recommendations aren't exactly very specific for me.
So you put in books that you've read, and then it sort of gives you because you've read this, you might like this, or because you gave 5 stars to this, you might like this, and you can put things on your to-read shelf and things like that. And then you can set yourself a challenge at the beginning of the year. So you can set yourself a reading challenge. So I set myself 110 books, and David set himself 10 books, and it just updates you on how you're doing, and if you're behind, and if you're ahead, and things like that. And I just think it's a really good way to keep you interested and to see how you're doing. And it's a bit of an incentive because when you you haven't finished your first book, but when you finish your first book, you'll see that it'll be like 1 book ahead of schedule, or something. You'll be like, oh. I'm doing well.
Oh, give myself a pat on the back.
Yeah, so I think you'll enjoy that. But I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. It's a bit different to normal, wasn't it?
It was.
How did you find it?
It was all right.
Was you nervous?
Yeah, I think I've carried it quite well.
No! Should we get Minnie as a family shot?
Okay.
Get what the public want. Mind the bowl. Don't trip over a bowl.
All right.
Hello, little pussy girl. So this is us as a family. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you all again soon with another BookTube video soon. Goodbye. Bye. Bye.